Hey everyone, good morning and welcome to Morning Tea with me, Tracy V. Allen. We're back for another episode. Remember, you need to like, share, subscribe because sharing is caring. And there is someone who needs to hear what we're talking about today. So if you share, they'll get the information. So today we have with us Wilma Williams. She is a friend of mine. I met her like 3 years ago, I think it was, at a conference. And she has evolved. We just had a little behind the scenes conversation, and I'm amazed by what happened throughout the 3 years since I've met her. So, Wilma, why don't you go ahead and tell the people all about yourself?
First of all, thank you for inviting me, and I'm really excited to be here at 6 a.m. in the morning. And you've been an awesome friend that we met actually in Savannah, Georgia, which is
Mhm.
interesting. And as far as me and my background, I actually, let's see, where should I start? I'm a former auditor for Omni Hotels. And at one point when Compaq Computer and was a major player, I was actually on Seagate Technologies account, which that was valued at $1 billion back when I was 25 as the senior administration specialist. And then I've worked for publicly traded companies.
Mhm.
That was something I did before auditing as well. And at some point, about 8 years ago, I started a nonprofit organization, which is a mentoring organization for girls. And prior to that, my first job ever basically was working for a pastor at 18 who happened to be my dad, who happened to be an entrepreneur of everything, which basically looked like he was not only the table vendor, he was every MLM that was out there, he was doing it and trying to get me to do it, or somehow, some way, he was always he was a great minister, but he loved being an entrepreneur. So that's where I feel like my entrepreneur spirit came from. And then
Mhm.
on the other hand, just the fact that everything I do, I try to do it from a faith-based perspective of accountability, regardless who I'm reporting to or what I'm doing. I always remember that God is my ultimate person that I report to. So that my degree is in management and ethics. I also have a certification in nonprofit management, and I'm next week I'll be done with the certification in as a nonprofit accounting professional. And so ultimately, that's the direction that I feel that is my new assignment, to go into nonprofit. Auditing, really nonprofit compliance, helping organizations design, manage, and audit their compliance process.
Awesome, awesome. And that is why this particular episode is called Business Ministry, because I know that you are very faith-based and you bring faith into your businesses, all of your businesses.
Yes.
And you even have a Facebook page called, tell me what it is again.
Marketplace ministry for
Right.
entrepreneurs.
Yeah, Marketplace Ministries. So tell us about how faith plays a role and how you integrate being a Christian or being religious in your businesses and keep it
And
separate but together.
we just had a little behind the scenes conversation, and I'm amazed by
I'm
what.
hearing you. You have me playing in the background. Yeah. Go ahead.
Well, as far as how it takes apart, first of all, it's really interesting because I never saw myself being in ministry. I am a preacher's kid. Not that I'm a follower of Jesus Christ, and all that great stuff that you hear people say, but me and ministry, even though I did graduate from Mid America Christian University out of Oklahoma City, um, it was a plan B type situation because I started off at Mississippi Valley State University,
Mhm.
had that freshman year that everybody should have, and ultimately just through my degree, which is in management and ethics,
Mhm.
and finding myself always in positions of accounting. I have no idea how I ended up in accounting. Accounting is just what I gravitated toward. And from working for Seagate Technology in Oklahoma City to, being on their number one account to ending up in Orlando back in 2000, where I ultimately started working for, at the time it was Galaxy Foods, which transitioned to Galaxy Nutritional Foods. The one thing that always, I feel, kept me ahead of the rest was my integrity. I remember being, my first job was working in a convenience store. At the time, it was called Delta Express. And at one point, everybody was fired but me. And I was like, okay, I came in one day and it was just me and this lady that had been working with every shift. And she was like, well, actually, I'm the new manager and you're the only one that had integrity, basically, and wasn't stealing us blind. And so at a young age, my dad instilled that into me. He said, you have your name, and your name is attached to your integrity and your character. And then that rolled into just my faith-based upbringing and background, and choosing to know that, when it comes to ethics and integrity, that is something that's often self-governed. And so being recognizing and allowing that to be a part of who I am as a person, not perfect, but but as it relates to just my faith, I don't, only one perfect person, which is Jesus Christ. But I just feel like everything that we do, we have to have, for me, that's my level of success, that I find that is my balance. That is my way of staying, ethical, coming in with integrity, leaving with integrity, because I know that there is someone other than just a physical person that is my spiritual authority. My dad had us to read a book as a kid called Spiritual Authority by Watchman Nee also. And that also affected me and how I, look at people in authority. Not that I can always trust them, or that I can always, or I feel like they deserve the role that they have, but they've been allowed to be in that role regardless who they are. And so they have a spiritual authority that has been allowed. And so for me, that has just been like my foundation and how I've been taught. And so taking that into the workplace and taking that in the marketplace, I believe that if we're ashamed of God here on earth, the Bible talks about that he'll be the same in heaven. And so we can't just forget just because we walk into a workplace or we're trying to do business. I think you did the story on and yes, I listened to you. So you all were talking about, I forget the rapper, 6ix9ine or something like that. And he didn't, he wanted to give to the organization, and because of their integrity and their guiding principles, which is really key in keeping us in our lanes also. But now they have, I think, the endorsement with McCormick's or someone like that.
$1 million.
Yes. So from 200,000 to, and that is the type of, integrity that you have to walk with. And that doesn't just come every day. They have to have something foundationally behind them in how they develop their organization. So that is that, as far as faith and just trusting God, everything I do is I try to make sure that and it's not easy, because you can be alone in standing for truth. And but I've learned, just to take the high road, which is the God road for me. Regardless, go in with integrity, come out with integrity, let God fight your battle. Scripture says that every tongue that rises against you shall fall and be condemned. So I do literally have to encourage myself,
speaking affirmations into yourself.
Yes, exactly. So that's how I do it.
Okay. But that works well with what you're planning on doing. Because in order to be an auditor, you have to have strong values. You have to be able to go in and look at the books with an unfiltered eye and tell the truth, tell the truth. So I think it works for you. And that's why you got into accounting. It was faith pushing you there, because that's the lane that you were supposed to be in. Because we know far too often we have accountants or auditors who can be bribed, who can be, swayed to make things look the way that the organization wants it to look. But if you are standing firm in your faith and you have a higher power to answer to, you're going to go in and give them the unfiltered truth as to what's going on in their organization. So that's awesome. So when we met in 2018.
18. It was January 2018,
Yes,
actually.
January 2018 in Savannah. You had just closed one nonprofit organization. It was a mentoring organization. And as we were talking, like, I found out you have now reopened that organization as well. So not only are you doing the auditing class, so you're going to be certified in about a week to do nonprofit auditors. So all of my nonprofit consultants out there who are always looking for auditors, hey, say hello to Wilma, okay? Um, so, and then now you've reopened the nonprofit organization as well. So tell us about the nonprofit organization and what it does and why you started it. Why did you decide to start it, and why did you decide to reopen it?
Well, and you're right. We put it on the back burner. We didn't quite. Our bank account was still open, and we had one faithful donor that was still giving, to be honest. And that person was giving because in their heart they felt like that there was going to be a season and a time that I would be able to refocus on what God had called me to do and the organization to do. So basically in 2017, December 4th, 2017, I started working within the pro-life area of ministry. It wasn't something I planned to do. It was definitely an assignment. I remember driving into the Flagler County, Florida, and on the December 3rd, literally to start my job on the 4th. And God constantly kept saying, it's an assignment. It's an assignment. And oh my goodness, I had no idea. But that's where, being a former auditor, one of the first things I do when I go into any organization is try to understand, who do we report to? What has been the history, going back, 3 years, trying to look at the finances, trying to understand where we are. And there were a lot of opportunities that were unexpected. I'll just say that. And I began, daily, weekly, then monthly understanding, why it was an assignment, why I have that Jeremiah 1:10 type of leadership style where everywhere I've gone, I tend to go in and, be the person that is the change agent, and have to stand with integrity and say, there's some opportunity here for us to be better stewards of what we're called to do. And so that experience, without going into detail, was what God used to solidify for me that auditing was not just something He had me to do, but it was going to all encompass what my assignment how I would serve after the assignment. And so basically March 27th, unexpectedly, I found out that God had told my board that COVID-19 was a sign to transition me out of leadership. And so I found myself, believe it or not, really excited. Even in the meeting, I said, wow, if God told you to do that, then God told you to do that. My pastor was preaching about when God in COVID-19 season, you're supposed to go, push toward the people. And we were not only, the first part of the conversation was closing the ministry totally. I mean, I had no idea as the director. And then the second part of it was that God, also said that it was time to transition me with no plan. And so I basically found myself on the phone that night calling an executive director friend, and I said to her, hey, I'm available to volunteer. And of course that went into a conversation, and then of her saying, well, why? And of course I'm available after Monday because we had a final shopping day for the moms. They allowed me to be able to contact everyone, and then by Tuesday I had my first opportunity to volunteer for a pregnancy center. And that turned into, well, I have to go back to 24 hours after I found out that we were closing. I literally had a call from a local pastor in my area, and they asked me, well, what are you going to do? And I said, I'm just going to volunteer until, the stay-at-home order, is lifted, and have an opportunity to figure out what I'm supposed to be doing. And that person kept saying, "Oh, so you're going to start a nonprofit?" And I was like, "No, I'm volunteering." "No, you're going to start a nonprofit." And the nonprofit, literally, I call that one faithful board member. I said, we have, X number of dollars, which is enough to us to kick off this nonprofit. The vision of it is to ultimately, the vision is to save babies and serve families, but we're doing it through a business model that's more of a national model. That supports the local pregnancy centers and supports the community services organizations. So basically, we have 3 key words that we in our mission, which is to serve pregnancy centers and community service organizations by increasing their capacity to serve their clients, because one of the struggles that I found as a director was that there was often more intention put in the budget toward operations and not enough toward programs. So that meant that, yes, we had these programs, but most of the items that were donated for the moms through the boutique environment were slightly used or used. And so we found ourselves in a COVID-19 world that says, okay, that's not the best option, because you don't know where those items are coming from. And one person isn't as clean as the other. So one of the things that we do offer differently is those safe transportation items, like your infant car seat that you're required to have before you leave the hospital, or a mom without a car that needs a stroller. Those are some of the big ticket items that a lot of times the pregnancy centers and those community service organizations that actually serve moms don't have the funding for, or have to go through some red tape for. So we're able to serve them by offering that. Right now we have our local center, obviously, that I was affiliated with, that is temporarily closed until COVID-19 shutdown ends here, and they're hoping to open soon. But we had moms that needed to be served, and so those moms have gone into the second part of our mission, which is to expand online mentoring for families. So we have mentoring for the moms, which is a mom's life group that right now we have on Wednesdays at 11 a.m. We have 3 counties that participate, moms from 3 different counties that actually log in online for that. And it's been wonderful, because the pregnancy centers focus on parenting classes. We focus on enriching the mom. And what we're finding, because this is our first month, it just ended, well, it will end next Wednesday, but next Wednesday is a Pamper Me virtual pamper party kind of thing. But what we did discover is that these moms had lost their identity. And so
that's the case for a lot of moms.
Yes, totally lost their identity. And so it was so wonderful and encouraging I let them vote. I said, do you see this being meaningful towards you and something you want to do next month? And they said, absolutely, don't stop. So we talk about things like, have you lost your voice, to slaying the giants in your life, and but focusing on the mom, and finding that the more you focus on the mom and you fill her cup up, she's not giving from an empty place. And we saw the results of these moms saying, I was able to spend time with and reconnect with my daughter in a way that I hadn't done previously. I even had some moms that felt all overwhelmed and all over the place, and felt like they always had to reach out to me or another lady that's affiliated as a volunteer. Virtual volunteers, what we have. And she said, but I was a self-advocate for myself for the first time. Nice. And so just knowing so that's the second part of what we do with the expanding. We're in June, we'll have our men's services director is going to be interviewed on, we have the first business day of every month, we have what we call a video newsletter. So we're kicking that off next month for the dads and the boys. And then this summer for the youth, what I used to do with mentoring is just coming back under this umbrella. And we're going to be having actually a virtual summer camp focused on teen entrepreneurship. And so I'm really excited about, rolling that out and talking about that more in June. And then the final aspect of what we do is support. We do support pro-life organizations on a national level because of my, diverse background in administration. I'm able. What I found was a struggle was the pivot in COVID-19 from what was pretty much an archaic practice of in the pregnancy center, world of not really using the online digital solutions that I had been a part of since 2016. So it was a quick pivot for me to work with the state, work with our national organizations, but I have been utilized more and more in that area. So we support from a consulting standpoint to be able to work with those pregnancy centers to pivot their digital solutions, as well as help them look at alternatives for client services. Which is once again just increasing their capacity, and so that's really what the nonprofit that I actually found that was actually officially incorporated in Florida on April 1st, 2020, and we hit the ground running, and we like our Mother's Day outreach. I and my conservative number thought we would bless 30 moms. We ended up blessing 73 moms. And so I've already exceeded what I thought would be our service levels for this year. So that is what I'm doing now from my nonprofit perspective.
Okay, great. That was a lot. Yep, that was a whole mouthful. But that's great. It's good work. It fills your soul, and it helps other people. So that's awesome. And that's what nonprofit is about. And I like the fact, because I have my podcast and my station is called Change Agents TV. And like you, I keep going into organizations and seeing all the gaps and making all of the tweaks and changing the whole atmosphere and how they do things. I am definitely a strategic planner to the core. Like, I can walk into any organization and see all the gaps, fill those gaps, and change the whole atmosphere of the organization. So that's one of the reasons people kept calling me a change agent. So that's the reason I changed my podcast to the Change Agents podcast, and then I have the Change Agents TV. But one of the things that you did talk about was car seats. And I just kind of want to talk about it because I've had that experience wherein something as simple as a car seat, because you can't leave the hospital with your baby without a car seat. I have donated tons of car seats. So I've donated car seats to former students of mine who've had kids, and they're like, "Oh, Miss Allen, I can't," because they still call me Miss Allen, right? So they're like, "Miss Allen, I have a kid, I can't leave the hospital. Can you help me out? Or just donate to local organizations, because a car seat, $65 to $85, right? Because you're not buying a name brand car seat. You're not buying, like I had. What did I have for my daughter? Eddie Bauer. So I'm not buying an Eddie Bauer car seat for someone else. You know what I mean? Because that's right. Car seat. No, I'm going to buy a car seat that is durable and sustainable, and use it, and the child can grow into it. So if anybody's listening and you have the capacity to buy a car seat or donate some money to her organization to help buy car seats for moms so that they can leave the hospital with their child safely, do so. I mean, it gives you an enriched feeling to know that you helped a person, and that car seat is going to last that baby. If you buy a really good one, it'll last the baby until they're about a year old, so that is, I love that because I was very shocked that just a car seat can be such a big hindrance. And of course they need Pampers and wipes and stuff like that, but to actually leave the hospital with your child, you need to have a car seat. And I know there has been some hold up, and then they're called social services, and yes, they can get it through the Department of Social Services, but it'll take forever, and they got a case open, and it just becomes messy. So yeah. And
one of the things people don't realize also, because I ran into a lot of people want to give used car seats, but because of the click rate, we don't, we have to be very careful, because we don't know, how much impact in the car from, moving around that's happened. Just from a safety standpoint, it is not wise to utilize a used car seat.
Yeah. And that's why I said a car seat is not that expensive, but some people cannot afford it. So it's not that expensive to me, but it's that expensive to someone else. And if you have the ability to help someone, then do so. So let's talk some more about nonprofit auditing, because I'm a nonprofit consultant, so that's near and dear to me, right? So I'm happy to hear that you're getting your nonprofit accounting certification. And what are your plans for that area?
Well, right now, I actually am hoping to begin auditing for a faith-based loan company. It's actually a faith-based loan company. They specialize in that. That's where I'm going to initially, have a chance to test my work papers. And just and thankfully, even through the process of going through this program, there's a lot. I'm not having to reinvent wheels. Because of my past background, I understand how standard operating procedures. First of all, if that doesn't exist, then we have to go back, to the original. So understanding that nonprofit compliance, starts with the design of those standard operating procedures or policies and procedures, as some people say. But really, what I found and have discovered that policies and procedures a lot of times is from that I've seen have been more HR related, operational, but not what is the standard for the day-to-day operations that would be something that would need to be part of an audit, as well as, what agencies do you have federal grants or state grants, or even community foundations? Has the money been properly allocated? But one of the
grant management,
right. But then also what I will initially be doing is going to deal a lot with the health of the organization. Have you been doing your financial statements? What do they look like? What is the organizational structure from a managerial standpoint? A lot of our faith-based community have not given a lot of intense thought as it relates to how, some organizations are part of a headquarters, so they're not, they're not necessarily a 501c3. They're under someone else's 501c3, but then you want to come and get a loan, and you're connected to an organization that is a headquarters. And just
a lot of churches are like that.
Yes. And I actually, my dad, I learned that structure from my dad, and but he chose to remain connected to his headquarters, but also incorporating and getting a 501c3 so that our local church could do more, even though we were connected, to our headquarters. So those are the type of managerial things that people don't really realize exist, from a faith-based organization to a religious organization, because it's all nonprofit. And so I love, my degree is in management, and I do love the whole process of business operations, and just looking at the day to day and how it does affect, our financials are the black and white. They tell a story. You could just go in and look at financials and know, oh my goodness, I was literally the fifth person in my role in 3 years, and believe me, going in and looking at the financials, I could tell off the bat. And it's interesting because it's great to have the background. My godbrother, Leroy Staley, he actually reminded me yesterday and sent me a cash out for dinner, because I am right where I said I wanted to be after I obtained my first certification in nonprofit, not really understanding what my path was going to look like, because I would have never guessed that I would be 100% sure that this is the direction that I'm supposed to go to, from my integrity to just the overall need. And remembering what you said, and even at the time we met at a Coach Reed event, and just remembering what you guys kept saying about, you need to consider, nonprofit, compliance. And so I definitely see initially going in an opportunity to work on my work papers, fine tune that, and then ultimately still make myself available for those organizations that just need to have someone come in and look at how their story from a financial point of view, which I think from a nonprofit perspective ties back to their mission and how they're carrying out that mission every day.
Yeah.
And then we look at, you know, the standards of operation and understand how there needs to be, you know, separations of duties and things that people, you know, one person doing everything, but you got five people in the office, you know, and looking
literally the what do you call it? The live that I'm gonna do after this for Change Agents TV is about that. It's already set up. It's about what's your managerial style, how are you going to find your gaps and who you need to hire based on, because we're doing business planning this week. So that's what I'm going to be talking about, you know, doing your personal SWOT analysis and realizing that, okay, I am not good at math. So I have to definitely outsource the accounting part. You know, I'm not good at technology, so I need to have someone that on contract that can come in and do stuff on our website. So you got to learn who you are. You cannot do everything in the business. I mean, there are some people who are well-versed, but for the most part, it'll burn you out. So yes, getting in there and creating a structure. And we do that a lot when we do business planning, but most nonprofits don't have a business plan. They don't have a strategic plan. They have no roles. They have no job descriptions, nothing.
They have a lot of passion, though. They have a lot of passion.
A lot of passion, but passion doesn't pay the bills.
It's not the business of it. The passion is not the business. And that's where I think we lose sight. And I think sometimes we just focus on the passion because we don't really want to give the business aspect of it the attention that it needs, because it's not comfortable saying that we need help.
And you're saying the key thing here, which is the business aspect of it. And I'm very firm in telling people that a nonprofit organization is a business first and foremost, because you have to formulate as a business, a nonprofit business on the state level. So get into your head that you are a business, and every business must make money in order to survive. So we need to have a holistic plan, just like every other business, but you just have some special circumstances that does not apply to for-profit businesses that you must adhere to in order to be compliant. You know,
and like you said, even on a state,
and we could talk nonprofit all day.
Yes.
We could.
And a lot of people, you know, I really appreciate what you're saying, because the thing about it, there are different levels of accountability from, you know, not just having a board, but your state accountability, your federal accountability. And I know here in Florida versus Texas, there's two different types of, you know, we have to not only have our state incorporation as a nonprofit, but we also have the Florida agriculture, consumer and agriculture. We have to also have a fee there, you know, to just solicit in the state of Florida.
Exactly. And a lot of states have that, and a lot of people don't know that. They don't know they need to register for solicitation. They don't know that if you're going to have something that's like a bingo for fundraising, that you need to register with the Gaming Commission, because now you're into gambling, you know, that's outside of your fundraising solicitation. So there's a lot of things that I'm big on compliance too. So I know we need to do a whole, like, you got to come on Change Agents TV and we do a whole compliance talk over there too. So definitely, because I can talk nonprofits all day. That's not what this is about. So we talked about your transformation into finding your purpose. Now you know clearly what you have to do. And we talked about the fact that one door sometimes has to close completely for the right door to open, and for you to live in your purpose and bring in faith into your business. And you're going to be working a lot with faith-based organizations, or so churches, and churches need help. Like, there are a lot of churches out here that are just barely hanging on by their shoestrings. So they need you to come in and help them to structure and restructure and figure out how they can formulate and make money, because churches are businesses too. As much as we don't want to admit it, they're businesses too, y'all. They have to make, that building does not stand on its own. Right.
And tithes and offering can't be the only source, you know.
Exactly.
And that's
right. The coffers cannot be the only source. Every time I say that word, people are like, what? Why don't you just say money? But it's the coffers are not the only source, right? And so what are the 3 takeaways that you would give to someone right now about business, faith, purpose?
When it comes to purpose, I believe that God has a big plan for mankind, and our purpose is found within it. I think for the longest, I made my purpose in trying to understand my purpose around my situation and my personal desire that was somewhat selfish. This assignment that God recently blessed me to have really helped me tap into the side of my personality that is all about servitude and being able to find joy in giving back. That was my driving force every day. If I had struggles with anything else in a day, understanding that it was not work to go in and serve, and to know that there were people that, and it wasn't my plan, it was in God's big plan for this individual and being able to impact legacy. So understanding that it's not just about us when it comes to the purpose, and understanding that there is a big plan for mankind from a faith perspective that I believe in, and my purpose has been found within a plan that does positively impact mankind directly, indirectly, beyond just my circle of influence. So that's one thing with purpose. And then the second thing is just unwavering faith. You have to be able to, once you tapped into that purpose, or you in the process of even discovering what your purpose is, then you have to make sure that unwavering faith is tied to a level of integrity that is self-governed, and regardless who says what. Some people want you to believe that the sky is purple just because they say it's purple. But if you know it's a blue sky, you can't change that just to, I tell people, I'm not that person to go along to get along. I'm not going to follow you off of a cliff. And so you have to have unwavering faith that ties to unwavering integrity and ethics. And it basically ultimately puts you at a place where when you'll have doors of opportunity open to you just because you planted those seeds of integrity, and that people ultimately, will people say negative things? Yes, absolutely. But for every tongue that rises, that it will be condemned. And I believe the scripture in that area, because you have that unwavering faith and integrity. And then the third thing that I would say is um, to move forward fearlessly. And if in the process of discovering your purpose, or walking in your purpose, and committing to that unwavering faith and integrity, then the next thing is to move forward fearlessly, because you have to remember that if you're trusting in God with all your heart, don't lean on your own understanding, because a lot of times our education and a lot of things that we've accomplished in life, our credentials, we find in COVID-19, none of that really mattered. We're all staying at home. It's a level playing field. And so at the end of the day, we want to know and understand as a person. I know I had a lot of a time alone that had to say, okay, am I going to be willing to move forward fearlessly in what I feel that I'm called to do, not just during COVID-19, but post COVID-19, and into the future. So those are my top three, is as it relates to the plan and purpose, and unwavering faith, and moving forward fearlessly.
Awesome. All right, Wilma, thank you for joining us today. If you want to get in contact with Wilma, you can go to visionplaninstitute.com. Again, that's visionplaninstitute.com. For those of you watching, it's on the screen. For those of you who are going to be listening, I just told you what it is. So Wilma, thank you again. You must come back another time when things are even blossoming even more. We can talk some more about what's going on then. Until next time, guys, I'll see you for the next episode of Morning Tea. Have a great weekend. All right, bye-bye.